Martin Luther King Day for everyone, 2025. And today we're going to talk about C++, Linux, and we're also going to talk about GTKMM. So this is about creating desktop programs on the Linux desktop, programs that will last long. And let's say a little bit more about this. Offers many opportunities for desktop applications. And so I wanted to introduce you to a desktop programming paradigm that is available on Linux for those that haven't heard about it before. And that is called GTKMM. GTKMM combined with C++ allows us to write modern software applications, desktop applications for Linux that are memory safe, that are robust, that are streamlined, and that uses the best algorithm libraries that the C++ community has been able to compile over the last 30 plus years. And so this discussion that we're having today is an introduction. It's at a high level, but it has some technical components that's going to show you how you start from scratch building a desktop application in Linux. And then once you have those basics, you can take it from there in any direction that you choose to go. And so I hope you enjoy this discussion of GTKMM as well as C++ and the build systems that have been in place for many decades to produce applications that are sustainable, long-term, have great longevity, and that you control more than anything else. Today, we're going to talk about GTKMM. I learned recently that GTKMM actually stands for GTK minus minus. So GTK minus minus 4. I know that sounds funny. But GTK is a way of building desktop applications in Linux using C++. So I made this entire PDF, right? I took the GTK documentation online and I created this book, right? So the book is 921 pages. And so I don't like being online to read my information. I like to read it wherever I want, like a tablet or a printout or on the phone, offline, right? Because, it's just easier to flow through information when you're not waiting for the next page to come up. So I made this PDF version of the documentation. It is on my blog. I'm sure if you search Google for it, it should come up in the search results. If not, I can send you a link to this book. This shows you how to program GTKMM, which is different from GTK regular, right? GTK regular I used for many years, and I did an entire series on it, but I decided to go with GTKMM. So I got the manual on GTKMM, and I was thinking about migrating to it because I had already developed several things in GTK, right, using C, but I used a C++ compiler. And along with that, I used Autotools. This is my Autotools configure script to produce the configure script for my RSS reader, which is written largely in C++ with a little C dabbled in. This is what a Autotools script looks like, or configure AC. This is what it looks like, generally speaking. And the key parts of this, right, aside from the initialization, is also where you check for various libraries on the system, right? And so the way AC checklib works is it's a function, it's a macro function in the Autotools world where you look for a particular library, right? So let's say I want to look for GTK3. I want to see if GTK3 is on the system. So it goes and it finds GTK3, and to confirm that it's GTK3, it calls a function, or it compiles a function to see if the symbol is there and if the compilation is successful. Because that's what AC checklib does, is it expands out into a compile statement that does a miniature C program. So these are all individual C programs that are compiled as a test to see and verify that a given library exists with a given symbol, right? And so this worked very well for me with my RSS reader because I use C++ for the codes that I wrote, and then I called into a C API, which is what these are, right? All of these are C APIs that I called into within a C++ application in order to glue it all together, right? And of course, by using pkg-config, you can set up your autoconfig flags as well as your C flags and your CPP flags. So this has been tested over many years, and then I have my Makefile.am, right? And this is the template for the makefile that Autotools will generate, which this is the makefile that is generated. So this makefile is generated, and imagine if you had to write all of this by hand, right? So that's the beauty of using Autotools, is it saves you from having to write all of that by hand. So basically you set up what your parameters are for building the source code, and when you combine all of these together, you produce a makefile that is able to compile your application. So, and this is the spec file. This is for Fedora. I also have a similar file for Debian. And so this is how the program is installed on a given system, right? And so there's very similar patterns here that you see, very similar patterns. So for this RSS reader application, this is the main header, the application, right? And so this is what the header file looks like, and then this is what the implementation file looks like. So the implementation file is, it uses C++, and it also uses C simultaneously. That's the beauty of C and C++, is you can weave them together to create something very beautiful and very powerful. And then this is the main window. This is the header file for the main window. It just has a single entry point. And then this is the implementation for the main window. And initializing a window, there's a little bit involved with that when we're talking about the C side of things. So, I thought about abstractions and having a better abstraction, right? So this is what it looks like if you use GTKMM to accomplish pretty much the same thing. Your application basically simplifies. So basically you have just one line of code, and then to create the application, and then you just say app make window and run. You pass in the actual main window or the class for that, and using templates, it's going to activate or invoke an instance of that window. So this is the header for the main window in C++, and then this is the initialization for that main window. And so this is not totally fleshed out, because this discussion is basically an introduction to GTKMM. But basically GTKMM gives you higher level abstractions, right? Sounds very simple, but the issue is that if you continue to use Autotools, right, then you need a different type of configure a C file, one that is more C++ oriented, right? So my plans with this new application that I'm building, which is an inventory scanner, right? So I got a scanner, and I'm going to show you that at the end of this. But I got a symbolic scanner, and I said, okay, I'm going to build a C++ application that uses that symbolic scanner, an inventory scanner. and I'm going to make sure that I'm using a cleaner abstraction where I can build this faster, build this in a much leaner and more streamlined way. So this is what a C++ version of configure.ac looks like, right? So you no longer have those AC checklib calls. You're using package-config. And package-config can check a module, right? So I have my command line up over here somewhere. So let's do a command line. So if you say package-config list all, it'll list all of the libraries. It's in no particular order. So what I like to do is I like to just send it to sort. So send it to sort. That way it's already sorted. And so there is the libraries that are installed on the system as of this moment, right? And then when you see a particular library that you want to work with, let's say you want to work with, let's see, our discussion here is GTKMM. So you got GTK4, which is C language based, right? And then you got GTKMM4. So if we select that, Control-Shift-C, and then Control-Shift-V, and then pkg-config, and then say libs, GTKMM4. It shows you all the libraries. So if you were to compile this yourself, in this case link it using a C++ compiler, these are all the link time libraries that you would need in order to successfully link against GTKMM4. And then if you're talking about generating your object files, right, then you want to see what your C flags are. This is what your compiler statement would look like if you're looking for the right headers. These are the right headers that needs to be included when you're using GTKMM4, right? So that's really what all of this is. And then the Makefile is very, very simple, right? You have a dependency on the existence of the Makefile, right? To actually do anything with app.cpp and main window.cpp in this case, right? And so you declare what your programs are, right? If you're going to handle multiple. My last version, the program that I did, it compiled 3 different programs in one Makefile, right? So this is just going to do one. And so using the naming conventions, so you got your CXX flags, or your C++ flags, and your linker libraries, which we just showed in package config, and then your sources, your actual source files. And so this is going to get expanded out to a much larger Makefile, right? So let's see what we got. All right, so this is those files that I showed you, configure.ac and Makefile.am, as well as the source code, right? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take all of this, right? This is the minimum that you need, and I'm going to put that over here. So this is the actual project directory. It was initially empty. We just put these files in here, right? Okay, so then you put these files in here, or you create these files in here, right? So you create these files, or you put them in here. And so these are the minimum files you need in order to build the software application. So you really just need this file, and these 3 source code files. All right, so back in the command line, right? We go back to the command line. Let's see. So there are the files, and what we want to do is Autoreconf-I. Let that run for a bit. So it's going to create additional files. So let's go back and see that. All right, so when we ran that command, it basically created a couple of files here in order to run the program. So let's do that again. So the great thing about Autoreconf is that it's considered a non-destructive command, in that if a file is already there and it's in the right shape, it's not going to redo the work on it, right? Anytime you change, so the reason why you want to keep that command line up, anytime you change this file or this file, either one of these that you change, then you have to run Autoreconf-I, right? Okay, and if you look at other Autotools tutorials, or you read books on it, it'll talk about tools like Autoscan and the like. You don't actually need those commands. You could simplify it to just Autoreconf-I. You simplify it to that, and you have to make this file yourself, right? You have to create this yourself, and you have to create this yourself. But once you create these two, Autoconf takes care of the rest. All right, so now that that's done, we have a legitimate source directory that is defined according to Linux standards, software development standards. This is a standardized way of doing software development in the open source and Linux world. Okay, so now I got my scanner build. So you can try to build your program in this directory, but that's not recommended. You want to leave your source files intact, and you don't want to run utilities in the same directory as the source code, because an accident can happen where you accidentally delete a file, or you mess something up, or you're trying to figure something out, and you don't want to mix the two together. So what you want to do is build your software and actually compile the program in a separate directory, a directory where you can obliterate it, delete things, and start over in terms of compiling it if necessary. So that's what we're going to do here, right? So the way you do that, notice the directory is scanner, and then we got scanner build. So all you have to do is do it like this, scanner configure, right? And then that's it. So once you do that, the Autotools script is going to go through and it's checking everything. And you can pretty much ignore most of this up here, right? I mean, if there's a serious problem here, this is going to stop. But you're looking for yeses for the most part. But once this works once, you're pretty much good. Where you have to pay attention on new software projects that you start up on the same computer system where you have the configuration right, okay, is where you want to look down in this area here. You're really looking at the tail end of the process, and you want to make sure that your critical libraries that you use for the software project is denoted as recognized. So this is where I actually got a clue, where I was switching from GTK, the C library, to GTKMM, the C++ library. I had a very difficult time trying to get GTKMM4 recognized, and the reason for that is, again, I was using C++ as my language, calling into C libraries. I had my reasons for that. But now that I am moving everything all to just C++ and not planning on calling into C libraries, then I needed a different approach with respect to configure AC. And so anyway, so there we are. And once you've done that, right, notice that we actually have files in scanner build. It was empty previously. This is all you need to build this program. This is all you need. And it's going to generate this Makefile. So let's look at this Makefile. So keep in mind that what we ended up doing, we went from this, okay, this is the template, and what Autotools did is it expanded that out into all of this. This is what you would want to write. This is what you would have wanted to write by hand if you wanted to compile the program properly and in a very robust way. This is what you would have to have written by hand. So that's what Autotools delivers. And it has all the right compilation statements, everything that you would want. So, you know, and the thing about it is you still have control over this process, because you can always make modifications to this so that it triggers adjustments to the Makefile. So now that we have the Makefile, okay, so let's look from here. We already looked in the File Explorer, but when you look from here, you see that we have our Makefile. So all right, so everything's been configured. So we just do a reset, and then we just type make. And it's a simple program, and there it is. All right, let's look again, and there it is. That's the program that's been created. Let's run it, and it's just a window, right? But you that's where you start. So if you're going to build a graphical desktop application in Linux, you start with a window, and then you put things into windows like text fields, things, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to write code for all of that and put all that stuff together. But I wanted to start today with this, right? So yeah, so that's the visual part of it, right? And you know, to keep track with all of that, you need a good good documentation on, you know, how to go about that. And so, you know, this shows you all of that, and you know, working with different fields, right? And so yeah, text fields, because a scanner is, when you scan a barcode, it's going to go into a text field, right? So basically that's what that is, and that is the process of using GTKMM Visual GUI programming from the ground up in Linux. And so some questions will come up. Some of the questions will be, okay, why not use GTK Builder? Well, I'm glad you asked. Why not use GTK Builder? GTK Builder is in a program called Glade. So Glade is pretty cool. Glade is not bad, right? You can do that, right? See, I didn't have to write all that code. I could have just did this, right? I could have just you know, set up a grid, and I could have just started putting stuff up in here. You know, look, got all that going on. For those that are used to Windows, it's kind of like WPF. It's a little unintuitive. If you can't just move this over here with your mouse, you can't hold down your mouse. You got to hold down the Shift key. I didn't find that in the documentation anywhere. I just kind of figured that out. But anyway, you got to hold down the Shift key. Even to resize it, you got to hold down the Shift key, right? But anyway, and then if you want to really go traditional with that, you can use something like, instead of using a grid container, you can use what's called fixed. Fixed basically takes you back to the way GUIs were designed back in the day. Well, you still design GUIs like that, but they have to be very focused, very specifically designed. So let's see, get a label, right? So you could put your entry on here. Let's see. There you go. So you click on it. You're like, okay. And then, so I don't have my Shift key. See, it does this, right, when you don't have the Shift key. See, it's not resizing it. It's putting some kind of constraint or margin on it. Anyway, but if I hold down Shift, then all of a sudden I can move this, and then I can resize this the way that I would expect, right? So I thought about this as a time-saving method, but there was only one problem with this. One problem with this. let's see if I can find the problem with it. No, it wasn't there. Let's see. There we go. The problem was this. It only goes up to 3.24 GTK. Now, according to the GTKMM manual, you can pull this into a C++ GTKMM program, because doing it visually like this creates an XML file, right? And you can pull that XML file into your program, and your GUI would be generated right by GTK or GTKMM. And so I could have went this route, but the problem is that you have some API differences between GTK3 and GTK4. And since GTKMM is a wrapper over GTK, right? So GTKMM4 is a wrapper over GTK4, then you don't want to run into limitations based on things that are either obsolete, that have been deprecated, and for which the GTK3 workarounds no longer work in GTK4, right? Because in GTKMM, you can use GTK regular interchangeably with GTKMM. So even though it creates a high-level abstraction, you can go back and forth. But yeah, so I said, oh, okay. I tried this first, and I said, no, I don't want any problems. So I said, if this doesn't have full support for GTK4, I'm out. So that's why I decided not to go this path. So next I want to show you my scanner. I'm very proud of this scanner, and then I will wrap up with a few follow-up thoughts. And again, this is a very simple way to get into GUI programming in C++ on Linux, right, as opposed to C on Linux. Either one is fine, but for what I want to do and the way I want to do it, I went this direction. This is the way I want to do it. I want a cleaner abstraction, and this will produce the same result as if I wrote it in C. There will be no difference other than it's faster to do it this way, and it's more streamlined. And if you're using C++ as I've been using it for the last 10 years, you want to stay aligned with the standards, right? And this is a better way to accomplish that. And so anyway, I plan on having further videos and discussions about this topic, but I wanted to make sure I had the simple one out there before I got too far in this. So anyway, let's take a look at this scanner that I've been talking about. So I got a scanner in, finally. It took a good while, but I have been looking for a scanner for a couple of years. And when I say a couple of years, probably the last 2 years, I thought about, be a nice little hobby just to get a scanner and play around with it, and make some little inventory application with it. So I finally got a scanner in, and you might ask, what took so long? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. So basically, scanners come in all shapes, forms, and sizes, and I wanted the right scanner for my investment. And at the same time, I have a lot of experience with scanners from Symbol, which was later acquired by Zebra. And I just decided that, I didn't want to do the investment on a Symbol or Zebra scanner, as quality as they are, and they are quality. Since I'm just doing this as a hobby, this is not something that I wanted to invest too much in. And so, yeah, so anyway, I found a very low cost but brand new scanner. And this is it. Basically, handheld and pretty straightforward. And you might say, are all scanners handheld? No, they're not. Not all scanners are handheld. There's all kinds of scanners in existence. But this is the one that people typically use. And this one has a card where you can do the initial programming on it. It also has a USB receiver so that when you're scanning barcodes, the barcode information can be received by the computer, right? And there's even a nice little insert in here, just like with your wireless keyboard and mice, for it to you to store it. What I really like is that it came with a wire, and basically it's the same wire protocol as a USB printer. So it's a USB-B cable, right? And so, it just slots in right there, and then you can go wired. So the majority of what I have done with scanner software that I've written from scratch is to set it up wired mode. But this will be a great opportunity to play with a different mode. This is also Bluetooth. So this has Bluetooth capability. So, it's just your basic scanner. And if you have a barcode, that you're going to work with, then, this will do that, right? So you just scan it, and it'll give you feedback that the scan. And so, it puts out this red light, right? And so that's how you can aim it, and it gives you feedback that the scan has been received. Very simple, very straightforward, and that's what I wanted to bring up as far as scanning applications and what I'm going to do with this GTK framework to put together a inventory application, very simple one for Linux, because I'm sure there's dozens of web-based inventory applications for Linux, but I'm going to make a desktop version just to have one out. Discussion. I really appreciate it, and I hope that your 2025 continues to go well, and I will catch you on the next one. And I don't know what the upcoming topic is going to be, but it will probably be some flavor of the one that we've had here, and I will hopefully have some more information that you find beneficial. And if you want to chime in on the comments or like or subscribe, feel free to do so. There are a few follow-up videos that I've included here at the end, and they are still relevant. Though they were published in 2019, they still apply even in 2025, and I suspect they will also continue to apply in 2030. So, again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask, and if I am able to answer, I will. Until then, I will see you later.